Hi, so I will be making a video about this awesome exercise that you can do to really get to know your deck, or you just want to study more deeply into your deck or something. So this is an exercise I came up with. I haven't really named it yet, but it's basically, right now I'm calling it group similar things together. Basically you take your deck and then you start going through the cards one by one, and basically you just start to group images that sort of have similar themes or similar artistic styles or similar landscapes or similar items. You start grouping them together and you start to form categories for them. And after you form the categories, you kind of analyze each one and you kind of look at, so what do they have in common? So they have these images in common. What do they have? How about their meanings, right? So what do their meanings have in common? Like, and stuff like that. So you start to like analyze a bit, analyzing your choices and that kind of stuff. So what this does is, one, it allows you to see the artistic intentions of the author or of the artist who did this deck. You can kind of start to see the symbolic choices, or the choices for the symbols. Yeah. It allows you to tap into like, so what this author or artist uses to represent this kind of meaning, and it helps you to see the connections between each card. It helps you just really get to know the mechanisms a little bit better. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, it helps you, it kind of opens up the possibilities of just the potential, like the different kind of ways you can interpret something. And what was I gonna say? And also it helps you become more familiar of this deck. It's kind of like, oh, if you see some kind of monster in this deck, this one's pretty obvious, but you know, like, it represents some kind of stress or some kind of negative situation. Or when you see like a scene that takes place in a forest, and you know this is something internal. It's something more symbolic, more abstract, more mystical. Because if you think, since we're doing Universal Fantasy Tarot, I don't know if I mentioned it yet, but we're doing this deck. If you think about Shakespeare, Midsummer Night's Dream, the wood, Into the Woods, anyone saw that movie? I didn't like it, but anyway. The woods is sort of this place where anything can happen, where your character changes, where you sort of see things a bit differently, that kind of thing. Anyway, that's the second point. The second point is, it helps you see the connections, it helps you with interpretations, helps you to understand your deck more. Third point, the benefits of this is, it really allows you to know what this universe is, right? And that's my definition of a good deck. A good deck is a solid sort of standalone singular organism that can just, has its own system, has its own symbologies. It's like one single universe sort of thing. That's my definition of a good deck. And yeah, it allows you to really see what the spirit of the deck is, as I usually say. But I would say the only bad thing is, like, it might make things more patterned, more methodical, more, it's like you might get stuck with the same, like if you come up with a definition for these set of images and you kind of group them into one sort of, this is one kind of symbolism, that you might become limited by that. But other than that, it does help you to get to know your deck better. So just continue to switch things up, and yeah, this is just an exercise. So okay, let me just show you a few examples. And again, I'm using Universal Fantasy Tarot, my favorite, by Paolo Martinello. So I put together some categories already, and plus I already did this deck a long time ago, so I already have the categories. So this is the first category I put together. So you see, there's that scholar studying a map. That's two of wands. And there's this sort of maiden dancing, performing. There's that artist drawing. There's the person riding horse with a, I don't know if that's a carriage? So, and yeah, and then there's this. So the common theme is they're all sort of like really like kind of like mundane moments where you would see in a city. It's like in the human civilization. It's like a daily life sort of kind of image. Yeah, for example, like this is obviously in some kind of university or some kind of like scholarly dungeon where you study stuff and not go out. This is basically the nerd of fantasy medieval times or whatever. And you see like there's this performance. It's like a very human activity. Drawing, very human. And then yeah, and the reason why I think I decided to put this category together is because there's a contrast between human activities, things pertaining to civilization, and there's the mystical forest and other dream spaces and magic spaces, that kind of thing. So that's one category I put together. And then the next one has to do with birds and flying. Next one has to do with the forest. This is not all the forest cards, I just pulled a few. There's Nine of Wands, and then there's Judgment, and then there's the Lovers. So it's kind of like there's this dreamy, kind of away from civilization, or sort of like, it's more abstract, it's more about the dream space, the internal sort of journey or an internal recognition of some kind of reality, right? It's like, if you look at Nine of Wands, it's about like just, it's like he's in his own paradise, sort of like there's definitely something going on in the background, but he doesn't care, right? So it's more about just his own perspective, his own state of mind kind of thing. So the forest has that kind of, or just these sort of nature images. Alright, and the next one, which is a better example, I hope, because I feel like that one kind of sucked. So the next one has to do with birds and flying. So you see there's the Six of Swords, there's the Eight of Cups, and that, and that, and that. So if you look at these images, and you look at the common theme of these tarot cards, there's something to do with speed, and there has something to do with leaving or forward motion. For example, Six of Swords, it's about traveling, and there's this great sense of speed in this card, because it, like, imagine like in medieval times, if you're riding a bird, you're pretty much riding an airplane. It's fastest way to travel, right? So there's a great sense of speed, and there's this great sense of like momentum and that kind of thing. And then this Eight of Chalices, it's about going on to the next journey, letting go, going somewhere. And then again, Three of Wands, you're sort of on this flying ship. Again, fast way of traveling in this type of universe. So again, this is a sense of speed and going forward and things aligning and other awesome stuff about going forward. And yeah, so Hame is a bit different. It's about suspension. So it's like if you put things into a category and you feel like this is kind of the odd one out, you can just always ditch it, put it into a different category, right? You can always reorganize stuff. This is not set in stone. And the last one, Eight of Wands, obviously. It's about great speed and the momentum. So you see how that plays out. And then the next category I have is sort of these deity, godly, epic figures. And these are usually like, I think all of these are from the major arcana cards. So I think it makes sense because in the, like, in fantasy literature or in like a fantasy world, you will inevitably, most of the time, you have these figures that are larger than life, like magical entities or godly beings that are just bigger than the mystical forest world, or bigger than humans. They're immortals, right? I think that was the original name I gave for this group, Immortals. And they're all in the major arcana group, so which says something, like major arcana cards usually represent bigger, spiritual, more significant changes, bigger energies and that kind of thing. So it makes sense to represent them as gods and goddesses, and plus there are just many archetypes in there anyway, so it has to be some kind of character and some kind of like, I guess, more personified figure, but then it's larger than life. It's bigger, so they're deities. So these cards are like Emperor, that's the Hierophant, Justice, the World, Empress and High Priestess, and one of my favorite cards, Strength. So you see, these are the archetypes that are represented by immortals, by images of immortals. So that's a different group. And, okay, last one is the group of monsters. And usually they're like this really dark, stressful cards, right? Like there's the 9 of Swords, there's the 7 of Swords, there's the Devil, 8 of Swords, 10 of Swords, right? That's intense. So you see, like, monster is used to represent, like, the negative, the more negative things. Which, if you think about fantasy literature, usually there's a monster to slay, right? If you think about the kind of the quest epic narrative, it's usually the hero sets out to slay some kind of monster representing a threat to humanity, right? So I hope I didn't babble. But yeah, that was just a few examples I gave you to show you what I mean. But you can basically do this with any type of deck. I did this with Dreaming Way, I think I did, and then I did it with the Nicole Kikoli. I can never pronounce that right. It's the new deck that came out this year, and it has this Alice in Wonderland, nightmarish circus fantasy carnival feel to it. I'll look up the name and put it in the description box so you know which deck I'm talking about. But yeah, that's basically the exercise. To summarize, get a deck, take out the cards, put similar cards, parentheses, images, together, and analyze them, kind of give a name to that category, think about how it relates to the individual tarot card meanings, or oracle card meanings, depending on what you're working with, right? So yeah, I already talked about the benefits, potential bad things, or pros and cons, yeah, check. Yeah, so I think that's it. I hope you find this video useful. Sorry if I'm not as eloquent as I would like to be, because honestly this is like the 10th video that I tried to do today, and it's been very, very exhausting. And that is my bad British accent. I'm sorry. Yes, and I think that's it. Alright, until next time.